Welcome to Dog Life Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Rossi Gijo, and yes, this is Dog Life Radio. We are on episode number 46. Thank you so much for joining me today. Pretty excited about today's guest and conversation. We've got Karen Smith, Coach Karen, as some of you may recognize her. Karen Smith, she's a master instructor over at StrongFirst. Kettlebells, body weight, barbell activities, and so much more. Anyway, just for those of you who don't know, StrongFirst is a school of strength, if you will, founded by Pavel Tsatsouline. I'm probably butchering that last name, but anybody who knows anything about kettlebells knows Pavel. Pavel is the grandfather, the godfather, the mastermind behind all things kettlebell, at least here in the States. He brought it over from Russia. He founded this group, StrongFirst. It's based on his principles, based on his theories, and it's really a high bar in terms of the kettlebell revolution. So she is one of the instructors, but not just an instructor. She is a master instructor for kettlebells, bodyweight activities, and again, barbell activities. So this was an awesome conversation that I had with her. I was looking forward to meeting her virtually, of course, but it was pretty damn cool. So before we get going with that, a couple of things. The audio on this one kind of dips and dives a little bit, but definitely stay with it because we talk about a lot of really good things. And I want to stress something. Karen is giving us something special. Karen's got an ebook out there called Refine, but Refine is more than just a book. You're getting over 50 pages of information, which is, yes, like a book, but you're also getting access to a full video library, over 20 different videos, 24 weeks of program design. You've got downloadable, printable tracking sheets, access to a private Facebook group, as well as access to Coach Karen yourself for assessments, questions, that type of a thing. You can upload videos of your own progress and use her. So this is not just like getting a book. You're getting a full-on coaching experience with one of the very best in the business here. Now, the book Refine, she is also refining the book. There's more updates to it that are happening currently, and a special Dog Life Radio promo is being offered right now from the 27th, which is the day that this podcast is going live, all the way through December 1st. You can get actually 50% off. What was that? Who said that? Yes, 50%. Actually, you're going to get half off of this ebook with all of that stuff just by using the promo code DOGLIFE, DOGLIFE. Use that code. You will get 50% off of the purchase price. You can check this out at her website, which is called CoachKarenSmith.com, spelled just the way you think. You can check her out at that website, all of her information. You can also look for more information about her at StrongFirst.com, and obviously you can get more information about StrongFirst at that place as well. Her Instagram is _coach_Karen. Follow her there. She definitely posts some snippets of different videos as well as upcoming events and all kinds of really cool information. So check her out there. All right. Now, before we jump into that conversation, just got to do a couple of things here. First, I want to give a shout out again to the longtime sponsor of the program, Death Wish Coffee. Check them out at deathwishcoffee.com. You can also purchase their stuff on Amazon if you are so inclined. Anyway, you should know, if you're a longtime listener, you should know they have got two different brews. They've got the Valhalla Java Odin Force blend, as well as their signature or their flagship, which is the Death Wish Coffee blend. That one is my favorite. It is more potent. It is the world's strongest coffee. Check them out. Also, they've got a podcast. We're going to drop a spot for them in just a moment, as well as on Facebook. You can follow them. They give away all kinds of swag all the time, mugs and gear. Check them out. And just in case it wasn't enough Death Wish stuff, if you follow them on Instagram, you probably know this. They are now starting to drop chocolate, Death Wish chocolate, just when you think it could not get any better. So I cannot wait to sample that, and I will give you my review. But right now, I stand firmly behind their coffee kicks ass. So check them out, deathwishcoffee.com. Thank you guys over there. We'll drop a spot, and we will be back with a fantastic interview.
Hello, faithful podcast listener. I'm the Incredible Jeff.
And I'm the amazing D-Man.
And together, we host Fueled by Deathcast, a weekly podcast show from Death Wish Coffee Company, the makers of the world's strongest coffee.
That's right, and you can find us every Thursday on deathwishcoffee.com, as well as iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and more.
And watch us live on the Death Wish Coffee Company Facebook page and check out all our videos on YouTube.
We bring you the latest interesting news in the science world, an exclusive look at the world's strongest coffee company, and a special guest every week.
The guests could be rock stars, actors, authors, athletes, or even astronauts, and we ask them all the question, what fuels you?
So tune in every week to find out the answer, get inspired, and fuel your passion with Fueled by Deathcast.
Now's part of the show where I get to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, all at Dog Life Radio. And if you are such a diehard fan of the show, remember, you can now get merchandise. That's right, Dog Life Radio merchandise. Just go to sixsquirrelstudios.com and check out the store. That is 6, S-I-X, squirrel, singular, S-Q-U-I-R-R-E-L, studios.com. When you get there, take a look at the upper right-hand part of the screen, and you will see the Six Squirrel Studios store. Check it out. You can get T-shirts, stickers, hoodies, all kinds of cool stuff. So get your Dog Life Radio merchandise there. And lastly, not only do I appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show, remember to subscribe or follow, depending on, I guess, whichever podcasting service you utilize, but also drop me a rating on iTunes. Hit me up with a 4 or 5 star rating. It's the best way for people to hear and find my show. That's aside from you guys spreading the good word. And as always, don't be shy about sending me some feedback at dogliferadio@yahoo.com. Thank you. Okay, and before we get into that conversation with Coach Karen Smith, one last item, the podcast you should be listening to. So this week, I'm going to give a shout out to the Rad Frontier, brand new podcast. I think they got about 3 episodes out there. Start at the beginning. It's okay. There's only 3 of them. Good friend Brianna Morse has got that new show out there. In her first episode, she interviews Christina Devarney. More of a conversation than an interview, which I personally like better than just interview Q&A style stuff. But anyway, Christina is the creator and owner of Beautiful Disaster clothing line. So she basically has a good conversation with her about starting her own brand, the importance of that brand, and lots of the challenges that come with it. So check that out. Great show, and subscribe to her. Now, without further ado, my conversation with Coach Karen Smith. Hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. This is Dog Life Radio. I'm Rossi Giuggio, and I am here with Karen Smith. Karen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, and you're a bit of a jet setter, so I'm really glad we could sit down and talk.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Right. So let's jump right in. Karen, let's see. So I'm going to read a little bit of your bio that I grabbed here, and I want you to just do a little color commentary. So for those of my listeners who aren't familiar with StrongFirst, you are the Chief StrongFirst Body Weight Instructor. You're a kettlebell instructor, as well as a Master SFG, which is the highest level instructor that they actually offer. And just as a little side note, I've had a lot of different kettlebell instructors and kettlebell conversations in the past. The master level title there, that's actually one that Pavel handpicks himself. So the Pavel, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but anybody who knows kettlebells better know Pavel's name.
Right.
So you've got all of those things going. Could you give us just a little bit of at least what your take is on, background on StrongFirst and how you became involved with it?
Sure. Well, originally I was introduced to the kettle world back in, I think it was like 2007, and a trainer that I met got me to go to the certification with him, and it was really nice. I was just a student that at that time. I had moved from San Diego to DC and was getting used to crazy weather, like seasons that I wasn't used to. So I was pretty much living in the gym, just going in and getting my workouts in. And I met a trainer there that was doing kettlebells, and it was something that was new to me. So when he asked me to go to the station, he said, "Hey, you get this quick, but why don't you go to this thing with me?" I had no idea what any of that was, but it was kind of like opened the world to me of like just something totally different, and I never looked back from there. So at the time, that was the RKC, which was the Russian Kettlebell Challenge. That was Pavel's organization with another gentleman, and so I did some assisting for those certifications over time and some military events with Pavel. And once I started doing that, then I started getting promoted within the organization to actually teach the certification. Then back in 2012, there was a split, and Pavel developed StrongFirst. So, of course, to being my mentor, I moved on with him to StrongFirst, and later was promoted to Master, and then I was running the bodyweight division a little bit later on. So that's kind of where all of that kind of came about, and that's my main thing now is running courses and certifications, and then when I'm not traveling, I do just coaching and developing some products to kind of keep people understanding more about kettlebells and body weight and programming in general.
All right. So you were talking about how you travel all over the place, and it's interesting because we were mentioning right before we started recording, you were up in my neck of the woods here in Bloomfield, Connecticut, about a week or so ago. So when you say that you travel, you're based in Texas, but you travel everywhere. Is it coast to coast? Do you have a region that you focus on?
No, I don't have a region. I'm pretty much coast to coast. Most of my travel during the year is within the U.S., but every year I normally have at least one event that's out of the country. This year I've had several things out of the country, but it just really depends on the year and where people want to bring me. So it just kind of varies.
All right. Well, let's talk about a little bit about what you do when you're traveling. When you came out here to Bloomfield, what type of an event did you hold? And what type of a crowd did you gather?
The crowd there was for our the one-day kettlebell course, and that's really open to anyone. You can have kettlebell experience, or you can be brand new to kettlebells. And we just break down all the movements. We build every progression to make sure that people are moving well and moving safe. And over time, we kind of set you up to really perfect those moves. It's not something that you're necessarily going to perfect in a weekend, but it gives you a base of safe movement so that you can progress accordingly with your strength and your technique over time, but do that in a safe fashion so that you stay injury-free.
So when you said anybody can come to these, so these types of events, they're geared toward people who are like me. I am not a trainer. I just like to train. But it sounds like there's also the opportunity for people who are trainers to go and kind of sharpen their sword, so to speak, when it comes to this one specifically about kettlebells.
Right. For this course, like I said, it is a mix. So we have some kettlebell enthusiasts that are just coming to learn and make sure that they're training themselves safely. And then a lot of trainers will come, and it's kind of a preparation for a certification. So they'll come and they'll learn, and it kind of gives them an opportunity to start training and practicing so that when they show up to the certification, they're well prepared and not just showing up and hoping they'll pass, but have a better idea that they're on the right track and prepared for the 3-day weekend, which is the kettlebell certification.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what that certification looks like. So I'm somebody, I've done some kettlebells, I've done some swings and things like that, but I'm very much in the novice category. Coming to a couple of courses, I start to build my skill set up and refine my movements. The process through StrongFirst, through certification, what type of process does it look like?
Well, normally I recommend that if they're new, okay, they're a novice, they're getting ready, but they do want to go to the certification, they want to move on from the course to the 3-day certification. I recommend at least 3 to 6 months of training for most people to kind of prepare, because we have weight requirements where you're going to have to use a certain weight depending on your weight class. We have technique testing, we have coaching testing, and we also have endurance testing. So the endurance test is the snatch test. It's 100 reps in 5 minutes with a given weight. And if you're not prepared for that you definitely be a smoker and kind of keep you from passing. So it's technique-based, but also that endurance test shows us that you not only gain the technique that you need, but you've also spent time building the endurance and you're going to know what to do for the students from there. And then, of course, we watch you over the whole weekend and make sure that you relay the information that we're teaching you in a nice, progressive way so you can coach people moving forward. So it's not just to come in and we hand you a certificate because you performed well. We need to know that you can actually pass the on to coach the students in the same fashion. So it's not 100% guaranteed that people are going to pass. You still have to walk out with a certificate no matter what.
So, okay. So the way you were just describing it, where you're coming in, you're learning, you're hands-on, you're doing, you're receiving all types of feedback, and you're not just getting a certificate. So the certification or the course that we're talking about is you're not just going to collect a check and get a certificate at the end of it. You're actually really focused on getting people's mindset and their bodies to a point where they're actually learning, retaining. And if they're not demonstrating the competencies that you're looking for, then that certificate, that's not going to come at the end of the week or the day
right.
or the weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, you will get a certificate of attendance, but if you want a certificate, actual certification, you need to come in prepared. Now, if you pass most of the skills and you just have a few that just weren't right, like up to par, then you do have a 90-day period that you can submit a video to finalize your testing, but you have to at least come in and show that you're passing most of it. So that's kind of at the discretion of the team leader on how well you did, and maybe you're just missing one or two skills, and if you can get it in that time frame, then you could still pass. So it's not like you failed, then that's it. Think of it as an extension of your certification. Like you're going to kind of do the work and make sure that you finish things out long and ready to pass those.
All right. So I'll call it the kettlebell thing. And I don't mean this in any type of negative way, but the kettlebell craze, the kettlebell thing, it's huge. I think it's probably as strong as it's ever been, if not bigger. The functional movement aspect of it, the question that's embedded in this little side thing for me is the dangers of what people see out on social media in terms of YouTube clips of people showing you how to do a kettlebell swing or any type of a movement. It seems like there's more people who want to do it, but there are less people who actually know how to do it, at least appropriately.
Absolutely.
It's scary, isn't it?
We see that a lot, and it's unfortunate, right? Because in the world of social media, everyone's an expert, right? You don't know who has been to a certification. Now, do you have to go to a certification to be legit and know what you're doing? No. Obviously, we want people to come to certification so that we know that people are learning proper technique and they're keeping their students injury-free. But there are people out there that have learned from someone who's been certified and aren't necessarily certified and are still coaching. But what we see more often than not is people that haven't taken the time and either learned from somebody who's certified or been to a certification. They look at the kettlebell and they treat it like a dumbbell.
Yep.
Right? Oh, well, it's just another tool that we can use exactly like a dumbbell. Oh, I'm going to do bicep curls with it, or I'm going to do just some different crazy things, right? There's flows, there's strength. We do more ballistics, and we separate ours into grinds and ballistics. So the more flow control movements, you're pressing, you're squatting, those type of things, and the ballistics, the swings, the snatching, and so on. So it can be your overall tool, but we do see a lot of crazy stuff out there. And the unfortunate part from that is everyone wants to try the things that just look really cool and sexy and dangerous without knowing how to do them safely. They haven't built up the stability or the strength to move the way that they're trying. And that's what gets people hurt. And then it gives kettlebells a bad name, not necessarily, oh, this trainer did this, the kettlebell hurt my back. And so that's kind of what we're fighting against, is trying to get people to understand that it's an amazing tool, but when done properly, you're not going to get hurt.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that you say it that way, going, the kettlebell hurt my back. It wasn't the fact that I wasn't doing the movement appropriately. It's like the deadlift hurt my back. Well, no, it's because you hurt your back because you didn't do the form correctly. And it's funny because I'll see more people with different gifts or images or whatever, what have you, of these so-called experts, and they're all kind of in this foofy space of throwing things around in this frenetic pace where it scares me. And I look at it because there's not as much information out there as opposed to, somebody who walks into the gym for the very first time, they can go up to, a treadmill and walk and run on it. And the machine kind of guides you. A pre-core type of a machine or any type of machine, a lifting machine with weights. It's like it's got you kind of locked in, and it will guide you and teach you. Moving on and graduating into free weights is another piece where there's more information out there. But with kettlebells, it still is this kind of like, hey, what is this thing? That's not quite a dumbbell. The handle's kind of, what do I do with this? You mean I'm supposed to throw it around? And I see lots of people not necessarily using them to the fullest of their potential. Not that I know all of it, but I'm just my 2 cents. So I see that you've got like this uphill battle in front of you.
Absolutely. And you know what? Here's the thing that's the hardest is we do have this uphill battle. And oftentimes people are like, oh, that's a cult, or, oh, they're so dogmatic on their way being the only way. And it's really not how we are, okay? Yes, we're called StrongFirst, but we're about safety. We're about quality of movement over the quantity of movement. And I don't know why or where we ever got the reputation that we feel is our way or no way, because that's really not how it is. What we want you to do, for example, let's just take the swing as the go-to, right? So we do the Russian swing, which is a hip hinge. It's a powerful movement that's going to allow the bell to float at chest level. But then you also have the American swing, which is done more within CrossFit. So people feel like we don't like the American swing, or it's only about the Russian swing, which really is not the case. The reason we talk about the Russian swing being the go-to for most people is when you see the American swing done, and you've probably seen this on YouTube, if it's overhead, it's more squatty in most cases. And the reason we feel it's not okay for most people is not because it's overhead, it's because the people trying to do that do not have the proper thoracic shoulder mobility to have the weight overhead. So it puts pressure on the lumbar. They'll be, bending their elbows at the top, kind of sticking their heads through, which is not going to be great for your cervical spine as well, because you're trying to put two hands in a very small space and put it overhead without the proper mobility. So if the mobility is there, have at it. Go overhead. Do the other swings. So there's really nothing, good or bad. It's the proper mobility. So I think that's where the like something when it's really not the case.
See, that's really interesting. So I didn't know. I knew about the two different versions that you were just describing. I didn't know Russian versus American, but I definitely you can see the CrossFit influence on the American version, really trying to get, more of a, I just need to do this as many times as I can in this whatever shortened period of time, which is designed for a certain result, versus the other one, where when I learned kettlebell swings, the piece that's in the back of my head, like tattooed back there, is it's a hinge. It's a hinge movement. It's not a squat. You're not squatting. You're hinging. And that's like every time I do any swing, I always try to remember that. You're hinging at the waist, and I just literally picture a door hinge in my mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, so they both have their purpose. It's just our goal is to make sure that if people are doing both, that we're teaching them proper mechanics and proper mobility. Like, we want to make sure that you have shoulder stability, T-spot shoulder mobility, and enable you to lock out overhead. And then we move on to snatching if we're going to go overhead, but that's just it's just a kind of a progressive kind of keep going different.
So that piece there you were just talking about, making sure that they actually have the proper mechanics, because both movements have a purpose. So it's very much like I used to compete in powerlifting, and prior to powerlifting I would bench press, and there was a certain style of bench press that is more bodybuilding-esque, where you were doing it to get a certain result. I would never ever get any white lights in powerlifting if I did my bench press like I did when I was doing my bodybuilding type workouts. So it's just, they're both okay. It's just dependent upon what you're trying to achieve from them. So with that in mind, the Russian versus the American, what are some of the big differences in terms of why would you do one if the results? What results would you be looking for, or the benefits of, say, the Russian swing when you're doing more of that hinge movement versus the American where you're lifting way overhead with that shoulder mobility?
Well, I can't speak a lot for the American swing because it's just not something that I do. Like I said, in our arena, we we kind of move on to snatching if we're going to go overhead. They're both power production. It's just, are you projecting the power up or are you projecting the power forward? Snatching and swinging are both a moving movement. So I would say if someone is doing the American swing and they're doing a more squatty movement, it's different power, right? And they're pulling more with their arms to finish in that lockout position. And we're focusing more on the power of the hip hinge and the explosiveness of that to project the weight forward to the float. So we're not pulling the bells to tough height. We're allowing them to float to that level because of the movement of the hips.
Okay, so you had to know I was going to ask this, but what is your favorite kettlebell move?
Oh gosh, let's see, favorite kettlebell move. It kind of goes in phases because I really like all of them, so it's hard to pick just one. I just started actually yesterday a 6-week swing program because I haven't been doing as much ballistics, and I'm really not a huge cardio girl. I kind of joke that I'm like the 1 rep max because I've been really focusing on our body weight division and one arm push-ups. So I've been really focused on pure strength. So I've decided over the holidays that it might be good to kind of do the swings. But I would say if I had to pick one that was going to be very well-rounded for strength as well as mobility, I'd probably say the sit-up.
I wasn't thinking that. That's one of my. That's one of my. I mean, it's one of my favorites. I like doing those. I started doing partials in different parts when I was focusing on different parts of my core. Wasn't even thinking that direction. Yeah, right. I'm glad I asked. So you mentioned something else about body weight. So I mentioned earlier that you are a You're the chief StrongFirst body weight instructor as well. Let's shift from kettlebells to body weight as also. Can you talk to me a little bit about what the StrongFirst body weight workouts are more made up of?
Yes, so for the body weight, and actually we've just recently switched this because we had a chief instructor of every division, one for kettlebells, one for body weight being myself, and one for barbell. And we've decided we've kind of all joined forces, and we're more of an advisory board now for all the tools because we're a school of strength, so everything kind of meshes, and the principles are the same. It's just what tool is it? So we're not just divided into each of those divisions any longer. However, I have been running the body weight division, and what we do there for that certification or course is we focus on pure strength. So 1-arm push-ups or 1-arm, 1-leg push-ups, single-leg squat, pull-ups, handstands, headstands, handstand push-ups, and raise arm focus. So that's where most of my team has been over the last couple of years because I'm teaching on those certifications that kettlebells. I still teach kettlebells, but I've been trying to grow the body weight division for a while.
So when you say handstand push-ups, so this is don't be mad, don't be upset, but when I think of it, I think of the CrossFit ones where they do a handstand, they're kind of up against a wall a little bit, and then they're bending their legs down and then throwing them up. Just getting back to that mantra of I need to do as many of these as possible, and I'm going to use momentum to help me do it. So when I think of it, it's like, damn, that's pretty impressive what they're doing. I can't do it, but that does not look like a legit type of a handstand push-up to me.
It is different, yes. It's you will find that you'll consider that kind of a kipping
yes.
type push-up, right? Because they're trying to do really high quantity, so the quality is not as high because in order to do the volume that they want you to do, most people cannot do them stripped.
Yes.
Okay? So that's why the legs are involved to help. It's like momentum, right? And then they also put their arms out at most cases, not all, at more of a 90 degree. So it would be almost that same angle that you would use if you were doing a barbell press, or in most cases barbell press. We even do our barbell press a little bit different. But for us, we build progressions where we start on the ground and then we elevate our feet on boxes until we're in that full handstand against the wall, and then direct handstand push-up. There is no kipping, there's no bouncing of the legs, everything has to stay straight. And most people, if you really think about this, is what I tell people with bodyweight certification, is how many people can rep out presses of their whole body weight, right, overhead. Not a ton. And I mean, that's a big percentage, right? Your whole body weight is being pressed. So we build progressions where you're pressing a smaller percentage of your body weight until you get into that handstand. It is still against the wall, just like CrossFit. Some people can do this freestanding on the floor, like like gymnasts, but the angle changes a little bit. Then you're not straight up and down because you have to change the angle of your body to be able to come back up.
Yep.
But we focus on that 45-degree angle. So carryover that we want from all of our different tools, right? Body weight, kettlebells, and barbell, is pretty much that same path. So if we were doing a kettlebell military press, if we're doing a handstand push-up, if we are doing, obviously the one-arm push-up's a little bit different, but also barbell, is we try to stay in that 45-degree angle. It's really safe on your shoulders, and the carryover's there for all of our other divisions. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, they will help each other.
So it's interesting when you were describing it and the kipping that's utilized there. And I'm not picking on CrossFit. I keep going back there. I love so much of what they're doing, and I've applied a lot of the different theories of what they do in terms of the frequency and how quickly they're moving from exercise to exercise and stuff into different things I'm doing. So there's lots of stuff that I really like. But it's funny because when you mention that, a friend of mine, around the time of year that the Murph happens, where they do that mile run and all those other things, he was telling me how he did it, and I said, you know what, damn, I'm going to try doing that. And the next day I came in and I was talking to him, and I said, yeah, I have to use this band and that band to do my 100 pull-ups. And he's like, yeah. I said, do you use your bands? He's like, no. And I was like, oh my God, you can do 100 pull-ups without a band? And he's like, yeah, and the weighted vest. And then obviously you're smiling because you know what they do. They do that butterfly thing where they're like, they're flopping all over the place. And I'm like, I didn't know that. See, that is not a pull-up. I'm not even counting that as a pull-up. So every time I see that, I kind of cringe internally. What they're doing is impressive, and I doubt I could even do remotely close to it. That's not a pull-up. It's just like cheating.
It is different, yes. It is different.
You're much more politically correct than I am.
Well, let me tell you why. Couple things. I went to CrossFit for a little while here in my area because I had just moved, and I was wanting to meet people and wanting to have a place to go because I like to be social. When I train in my garage all the time by myself. Actually, I now have a training partner who comes here, but I wanted to meet people, and I was like, okay, my two choices, closest gyms that I would probably go to, because I don't want to go far if I have a whole gym in my garage. It was CrossFit or LA Fitness. I was like, CrossFit's going to be, this sounds crazy, for my people, right? Like they're going to understand me and a little bit better. So we probably mesh a little better than just going into like a big box gym. The problem there was, and it was a great gym, so this is not in any way bashing. It's different, right? Like I wanted to, they were like, hey, you're so good at pull-ups, like we can't wait to teach you kipping. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like I don't want to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with it if you have the joint stability, right? If you're the joint integrity, if you have built up the stability in those joints, then you can take them ballistic in my eyes, right? So I was just like, hey, I need to be able to keep teaching what I have to teach, and I'm okay coming in last because I'm not here to compete with everyone. I just want to get my workout in and be in a social environment. So I didn't move on to kipping. I was okay coming in last, and I laddered mine out, and they rushed past me and finished way sooner. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I did hear way back when, and I don't know if it's changed, but CrossFit in their certification, or at least it used to be, they teach that you should be able to do a pull-up first. A strict pull-up before you move on to kipping. That's actually taught in their certification, or at least I heard that it was. However, many gyms and instructors know that they can get, especially females, doing pull-ups for the program faster if they use kipping. Right? Because they can join in. Where it's going to be longer for them to build the strength to actually do strict pull-ups. So I think that's why people fast-track to that versus building the integrity of that joint and building the strength before you move on to ballistics. And that's why we separate our grinds and ballistics. We're going to do deadlifts and teach you how to hinge before we teach you to swing, because we want to know that you have the movement down safely, slowly, before we do it fast. So I think kipping is fine, again, if they've built the joint integrity and they have the strength before they move on to making it fast.
No, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense. And there's something that's also similar between the CrossFit type of an approach from from what I've seen and from what I'm hearing from StrongFirst as well, it's the familial approach, where it's a village approach, group type activities versus generally in your box gyms, they do offer, classes and stuff like that. But if you walk in, you hit the gym floor, you go work out. If you've got a buddy with you, then you go work out with your training partner. But for the most part, it's you and the equipment, where, the thing that I really like about it is a group activity for the most part. And I've always found personally the most success comes when I'm working out with a group of people.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can't knock them for that.
Mm-hmm.
They really have done amazing things for community, right? They know how to build community and make people feel a part of something, probably better than most people that I've ever seen. We have that community, but I feel like at some point along the way we kind of got they're dogmatic, they only feel that there's one way, and we're trying to show that that's not what we're about.
Mm-hmm.
We do want the quality of the movement, we want people to stay safe, but we are, once you get into the kettlebell world, you will see that we're very much a brotherhood, sisterhood. We do have a community. We do care about people and want people to move well, move often, and be in a safe environment. It's not about being perfect. We're always chasing the perfect, but it's about being safe.
So let's talk about the brotherhood, sisterhood aspect there. You were mentioning it, and when you're teaching classes, what type of a mix in the crowd are you seeing between men and women?
You know what? It's definitely growing to where we have more females. In the early years, it was very male dominated, a lot more military type, but it's pretty much everyone now. I mean, I think I was just at our barbell cert last weekend in Seattle. I went through as a student because it's been a while since I was there, and I think we were at about 50-50 for men and women. And I have to brag, I think more of the women, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think more women pass than men. So we're coming in and we're getting strong, and we're kind of, it's not so male dominated anymore, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it is, there's something for everyone, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's great. And I do think I wanted to ask that. Obviously, I was hoping to get that type of response, because I think that the growing fitness community is definitely seeing more of a movement of women into these types of activities. And when I say these type, I mean away from aerobics, jazzercise, into lifting weights, that you can lift weights and still be feminine. Whatever your definition of feminine and sexy or attractive is, you can do that too. And I love seeing, I've spoken to a couple of different people over the past couple of years who kind of epitomize that as well. So it's great to see that you're seeing those types of results as well, and that type of a shift where it's not an exclusive type of an environment. It's open to anybody who's got an open mind.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's one other place that you kind of have to give credit, I guess, for leading the front of that is CrossFit. I mean, they've done great things for women, right? Like seeing that women can come in and be strong, and we've all been doing that as well for all these years in kettlebells. But CrossFit became so popularized and so household name that it really kind of pushed that forward.
Yeah, it
so
did.
I think that more and more women are understanding that we want to be strong. It's not going to make us bulky. It's a good thing for us. It's this lifelong journey, and we don't need to just be doing aerobics classes. And you can still do that, but I think the body that more women are chasing and wanting is this fit, strong body, not just super skinny anymore.
Right? Yeah, it's shapely. It's to whatever shape you want. If it's more muscular in some spaces, more curves in general. Where I think you're absolutely correct, and I love hearing that you can lift without being bulky. Because the thing that I have to smile whenever I hear a woman say, "I don't want to lift because I don't want to get bulky," is I've been lifting for over 30 years in a variety of good ways and bad ways, I'm sure, but for 30 years trying to get bulky. And you can kind of see me. I am not Mr. Olympia here. I am not going to lift a car. I'm not. I've been trying like crazy. It is very difficult to get like that. And I think when you think of those people who are these heavyweight bodybuilders or these world's strongest men or women, they have to work really hard to pack on that type of bulk.
Absolutely. It is not easy to pack on bulk. And some of the bulk that I think that, I hate to say this, that women feel they're going to get, it's because they start lifting heavy but they don't change their diet. So they still have, what seems to be bulky is the layer that was already there and you built some muscle underneath it. But muscle is actually more dense. So if you look at 5 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat, the 5 pounds of muscle is going to be tighter and more compact. But until you also focus on the nutrition, that layer is still going to be there. And I think that's where women feel like, oh, I started lifting and I got bulky. No, you built some muscle underneath a layer that was there that you haven't focused on your nutrition to shed that layer off. So it's not that we're really going to get bulky. It's too hard to do that.
Yes, for most people. And then also it's the for the most part, what are people watching when they're starting to exercise like that? They're jumping on the scale and they're looking at that number. And, like you were saying, if you start to put on a little bit of muscle, you may look at that scale and you're going to put on a couple of pounds, and that may get associated to, I'm putting on weight, I'm getting bigger. I don't want that to happen. I want to get below, whatever weight you want to get to. And it's like that numerical goal might not necessarily be like the right goal if we're thinking about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's crazy is, as much as we try to preach, like, it's not about the scale, and not for all women, but I know myself and many women, it's still this mental thing. Like, it's like, I went to the doctor yesterday and their scale, and I'm like, I don't know why they do this. It's like a anxiety for us, right? Yep. Like, their scale was probably like 3 to 5 pounds heavier than mine, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like, okay, this is just their scale. Like, they just need a number as their baseline. So, like, don't totally get into your head that you put on 5 pounds in the last week when it really doesn't matter. It's how do your clothes fit? How do you feel about yourself? Like, we need to stop judging on perceptions of what we should look like or what we should weigh. But it can be a mental thing. I mean, I don't know that guys care as much about it as we do, and I don't know if it's that the media for all these years kind of put us in this place of like what we should look like and feel like. And I think we're breaking those barriers down, but it's still a process. I mean, I see it even with my daughter, and I try to really teach her that it's about her nutrition and being active. And she's so active as a child, and she's really fit, but she's already telling me, like, oh, Mom, I'm lifting these girls in cheer, and I'm feeling my shoulders get bigger. And I'm like, you're lean and amazing, like, you look amazing, but already at such a young age, like, women just start to pick their bodies apart. And I wish that there was a way to change that, but I fall into that, as well. So it's frustrating, but it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. It stinks to have that happen to young kids. Mine are too young. Well, who knows? Maybe they're not, but it hasn't impacted them very young. And then it's going to come where there's this societal impact, especially on women. But I will say there is a stigma associated. I'm sure men feel it as well. Their own type of body dysmorphia, or their own type of societal pressures. But I absolutely agree. I think you're right that the whole numerical scale thing has got to be much more intense on women. But I think it brings out, and it also can bring out like this OCD type of mentality in people. Because once you get on the scale and like you have a good day dieting, like you eat the right things or whatever, hopefully it's in a positive manner where you're eating a nice well-rounded meal or meals throughout the course of a day instead of starving yourself. What do? You get on the scale either at the end of the day or first thing in the morning. You get on the scale again. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't lose any weight, and it's like not necessarily the right behavior to instill in yourself, but we do it anyway.
Yeah, and like I said, I was just being honest on how it is with me, and I try to coach my students not to be that way, but I still fall into it sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, there's this weird mental thing for me that if I get on the scale and I weigh a certain weight that I weighed when I found out I was pregnant, that I should never be there again, right? Because I was pregnant when I weighed that. Mm-hmm. But I found out I was pregnant when I was 4 weeks pregnant. So really, I mean, it's not like, oh, this baby made me weigh more, right? It's just a weird thing for me. Like, that's what I weighed when I found out, so I should never be there. And if I get there or above that, like, it's this weird anxiety that I've been working with for years, and I hope that to be better about it so that I don't put those same kind of pressures on my daughter, because, I want her to think about being healthy and eating nutritiously and just being active.
versus worrying about every little inch or every little pound, because it is a weird mental thing. And then I try to get myself out of it, but it happens from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but I love the way you said it. It's like you're dealing with it and trying to, not internalize it, but trying to put that best face and that best foot forward for your kids. I think that's the best way to do it, is recognizing that, okay, this is what I should be doing. I'm going to try my best to do that. I'm going to continue to work towards doing that. But in terms of what I want to represent to my child is, I want them to learn what is an appropriate way to do this. What is the best way to look at this type of a thing? It's funny how you internalize it. And I can think of I go through the exact same thing. Anytime I go on a scale and I'm not like, I'm thinking, I have dress pants on. These dress pants weigh at least 1.5 pounds. I've got shoes. There's no way I should be weighing myself wearing shoes. But it doesn't matter. They're just doing it for a baseline. That's not saying that I'm actually at that number. And the thing that this is even weirder too is we're talking about that number. What number? I had a guest on. She was a professional strong woman. She still is a pro strong woman. And we were talking about it. And I wanted to ask her what, the weight class she was at, if she did any cuts to get down to it, because she was not in the heavyweight. She was more in the middleweight category. And she was completely open about what she weighed and, all of that practice. But it was weird at first for me to broach that subject, because I was like, I don't want to offend her and say, so how much do you weigh? Even though she was like all muscle and, very confident with herself. But it was this weird stigma I had to break through.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example, like I mentioned, I went to the barbell certification last weekend, and the last time I went through it as a student was 2013. And even though I knew I was completely prepared, like my strength was there at my current weight, and I love that I didn't really have to train for it this time. Just everything that I did with body weight, helped me have all my numbers for the barbell, so my strength was there. But it was still a weird thing, because when I went in 2013, I was 12 pounds lighter, and of course leaner. But it's all by weight class, so I knew that I had to come in stronger this time because I was 12 pounds heavier, right? So it totally changed everything about what I have to lift. It was all percentages. So that was a weird, even though I was prepared, it was still in my head wow, 12 pounds heavier in 5 years. From the last time I was there, but it is what it is. I still completed everything and passed it, so it shouldn't really matter.
That is funny. Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's something that probably everybody goes through at one point or another. I think the old mirror test too. Always staring at yourself in the mirror. When you get to that point where you're feeling good about what you're seeing, whether it's a full-on, full-blown body dysmorphia, or if you're just like, man, I need a little soft on the sides here, I got to tighten up, that kind of a thing. It's a difficult road to go through, but I'm more of a mirror guy in the way the belt fits versus the scale, just because of the balance between muscle, fat, and all that stuff too.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's how we should be. It should be more about how we feel and how our clothes fit versus, oh my gosh, should 5 pounds on the scale make me have a bad day, right?
Yeah. You know what else is? It's performance in the gym too, right? Because we get so focused on, geez, I'm weighing a couple pounds heavier than I feel like I should, or whatever, compared to yesterday. But if I had a really strong day in the gym and I happen to be up a little bit, that to me is almost worth it. Like your body is rewarding yourself for, sometimes if you're putting in that extra fuel, you can perform better. And then that's one piece that, we haven't really crossed that bridge and tied these together, but performance is a huge output of what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it should be more about performance. I mean, I have a friend, male, that went to the doctor, and the doctor told him that that his BMI was too high. He's almost 6 foot tall, or right above 6 foot, and very lean, really shouldn't lose anything at all. Mm-hmm. But because the doctor said his BMI was high, he feels like he needed to get below 175, and it's almost over 6 foot. And I'm like, you really don't need to do that. But in his head, that's several times he had talked to me about that. And I'm like, you don't need to lose anything. You are going to be so thin. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't. I mean, BMI is just. I mean, we could go on forever on stuff like that, but it's not just a thing for women, right? There are men that have safety dysmorphia, and feel they need to be a certain way, but I just think it's not as often, or it's not as openly discussed with men as it is with women.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the BMI issue, I think that's garbage. I hate the BMI. But I think the social pressures of women are, the social pressures that men feel are nothing in comparison to the social pressures or the societal pressures that society puts on women in that space. So you're absolutely great. It happens in both places, but I mean, to far lesser extent. And
Right.
we're obviously talking in broad brushes here. We're not talking about specific instances. But that's crazy. 170 pounds as a 6-foot person. Holy moly. I'm 5'9", and yeah, no, no. I don't think I could get under. Maybe I could get under 170 if I was. Diet down a little bit and maybe do a little bit of like those pro fighters when they suck weight and lose a little bit of the water weight. Maybe I could get there, but I think I'll pass.
Yeah.
Karen, I really want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, but I don't want to eat up your whole morning and early afternoon. I know you've got some appointments later, but before we wrap up, I wanted to give you the chance to plug any social media. I know I follow you, but why don't you give us your Instagram and websites or anything like that?
Sure. My website is CoachKarenSmith.com, and that's probably the easiest way to find all of my social media. There's links everywhere there. But if someone's like just more tuned into Instagram, it's _coach_Karen_. I do try to put videos and content tips, as much free content there as I can. And then the other things that I'm working on, I'm redeveloping my website, so that's about to change. And I have something there called a coaching corner. And for a very, very minimal fee, you can get 5 workouts a week straight to you just log in with your private code, get your 5 workouts. Most of them are kind of about body weight based, but they can be done with, some of the skills can be done with barbells and dumbbells. And there's a video library there. I also have a shop on my website that has some different programs, some spreadsheet programs, plus an ebook. I have an ebook that I launched last year around Thanksgiving, and I'm going to be doing a big Thanksgiving sale as the 1-year anniversary. But it's a 70-page manual that gives you 3 different levels of programs, each one 8 weeks long. And again, video library. It has a private Facebook page where people can communicate, upload videos. I go in there and give feedback, assessments, and answer questions. So I'm trying to be able to help as many people as I can during my travels. I'm not doing a lot of in-person training anymore because of my schedule, but by having those and things like that, I can still cover a lot of ground and get a lot of people up to speed on different skills.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Just again, thank you so much. This has been great. I know I've learned a lot, and I follow you, and I'll continue to. So just thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And if you ever have questions on any of these or, any skills, just let me know.
Oh, I will.
Thank you so much.